Hey, so we are live and streaming. Let me just check my levels. Boom, 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 boom. So I am not yet streaming with the new setup because I have got to go and get a new USB 3 PCI card apparently, which I'm going to go and do. I just ordered that tonight, so I'll be using the full HD camera soon. But wow, what the hell, this is good enough, isn't it? How is my sound? How is my syncing? Let me know. It's about a 30-second lag kicking in. I'm not shaven because I've been on vacation. That's all good. Wow, already one down thumb. That's pretty cool. I guess I'm 7 minutes late. I can understand that. Fair enough. Yeah, Ninjaroo88. Fun chatting with you on Twitter just now. This is actually just a continuation of something we spent a whole hour discussing with Adol just before the thing. So we've kind of gotten all the points out, and I kind of just, for the sake of the discussion, more or less took the position of saying, well, you know, if the guy, you know, just because he's an old... Adol was painting him a little bit as being... So let's sync everybody up with the conversation. As some of you recall from the last 2.5 Oyajis, I think it was, we got Edo Inoue, and we were talking about Arado Debito's latest target for NJ Gaijin Retribution, for the for this racist tempura don restaurant in Asakusa of all places, like the tourist mecca, and they're like they're turning away foreigners. And, Debito, in his typical fashion, went and put he named the place, shamed it, put its phone number up, and encouraged people to go and call them up and tell them what they think. And people in the comments, I only saw the comments actually yesterday. Someone sent me the link. And people were saying, oh, well, let's report them to the IOC and, all this other stuff. And, Adol, just to summarize the last 2.5 years you show, Adol felt like this was basically running up a lynch mob against a guy who probably had a good reason for his position. So he went over and met the guy, ate some of his tempura without getting kicked out, and had the conversation about the sign. And the guy said he had some really, really terrible dickhead foreign customers at some point, and they left such a bad impression he didn't know what to do, so he put up a sign saying, no, that's it, no more foreigners, I'm done, and that was it. However, let me just quickly make sure that I can't see the comments updating yet, so I hope that the sound and the video is okay. But anyway, by the way, I'm going to try to save some bandwidth by doing this. But anyway, so yeah, he went along and talked with the guy and said, it's really not a good idea. It's really not fair. And the guy said, I don't know what else to do. And in the end of the day, Adol, much to his credit, went and had 2 lunches there and convinced the guy to take the sign down. And I saw the reason I got sent the link for the comments is, oh, look, Adol taking the credit for it. With his clueless commentators, myself and Victor. It was a fun show, and we talked about it. And Victor felt like, this is people ganging up against an old guy who probably didn't mean any harm by it, didn't know any better. And Adol as well obviously felt some sympathy for the guy. I have very great credit to Adol for actually going up and talking to the guy and reasoning with him and getting him to change his mind. I mean, that was awesome, actually. So, Adol, awesome. Gaijin fist pump. But I'm going to put it out there and say it. I mean, like I say, it's not. If we all agree, it's not a discussion. And fact is, one thing I respect about Arado actually is his blacklist. And one example I'd give is HIS Travel, that years and years ago got caught instructing their staff not to inform. I always used HIS Travel. There was a travel agency near where I lived, and they were the easiest to use, and I used them. And wait a minute. Oh, that's right. That's frozen for a reason. That's good. Thank you, Victor. Sound and video good. That's good. So yeah, basically HIS Travel. I used them all the time. They were the nearest place to where I lived. And one day it came up in the news that they had been instructing all of their travel agents not to offer cheapest fare to foreigners because they were ripping them off. And I mentioned this on the show. And as a result of that, well, why would I go and spend what was at the time air tickets to New Zealand once, twice a year? I mean, I was spending probably $2,500, $3,000 a year on air tickets. Why would I give my money to a company that's got a policy of specifically excluding foreigners from the cheapest tickets, even though that has a specific reason and purpose to it? So I decided to exclude them, basically boycott them. And this is what Ado does. He finds businesses like this that have that they're caught in policies of acting or actually having policies of discrimination, which is not illegal in Japan. You know, there's no human rights law. There's a bill under debate, which is being kind of fiercely debated. And yeah, so anyway, it's okay to be racist in Japan. Fine. They have the freedom to refuse or to rip off foreigners, and I have the freedom as a foreigner not to give them my money. Foreigners spend a lot of money on air tickets, and I think you're stupid alienating them if you're a travel agency. And likewise, honestly, if you're a shop in Asakusa, that's kind of dumb as well, frankly. But there again, I'm sure they're very nice. Well, no, I'm not sure they're not. No, this is the whole point. I'm not sure that they're very nice people. I have racist relatives. Racist grandpas, and sure, they're just ignorant and they don't know any better. It doesn't mean that they're not racist, and it doesn't mean that you don't sort them out when they say racist stuff, even if they say it without. And honestly, this is what kills me about ignorant people. I mean, I prefer malicious people, because malicious people can turn it on and off, and they know that it's wrong. But you know, ignorant people, it's like, you know, why are you beating up on me? It's not fair. Well, you know, I'm not going to defend ignorant people, and this was an ignorant person. And, you know, through not being able to speak English and not knowing how to deal with foreigners and you know, and having met dicks, you know, which are unfortunately, I mean, and the dicks are, of course, the worst people in this whole equation, but reacting inappropriately, credit to Adolf for you know, teaching him the better way. But at the same time, from my perspective, no, well... It's one of these things, you know. I didn't quit. You know, you didn't quit. You're fired. It's like, you didn't refuse me service. I refused to enter. I boycott you. But it doesn't make any difference in the end of the day. I'm not going to go there. He doesn't want me. We're all happy. And he's gonna suck. Well, and also this is the other thing. One thing about Japan with these restaurants, they don't really care about getting lots of business. Frankly, they have enough customers to keep their business going, and they're happy. Which is why the mass. You know, I refuse to spend it's like these people refusing to, you know, I'm going to withhold my subscription, who say it on YouTube. It's like, I don't care, I got plenty. Honestly, I'd be happy with 100 subscriptions, so I don't care. But please, you know, be my guest. And it's kind of mutual like that. So Ninjaroo, we had this brief discussion before. I just noticed a racist comment by Michael Peckett saying, typical New Zealander always like, well, yeah, that's kind of true. Technical setup issues, but this is it. You know, I you know, you didn't refuse me, I boycotted you. That's pretty much what it's about, and I don't care. I mean, like I say, I wouldn't have gone to the trouble of sorting someone out who I thought maybe if I've tried to talk with racist people before and tried to reason with them, but there again, why do I need to spend that time in my life when I'm sure there's a delicious McDonald's just up the road? Although apparently the tendon was great, and you know, and as we mentioned, you know, some people like the tendon with a little bit of racism on it. And this is YouTube. So anyway, narcissists. These guys all look the same to me. Indeed, they do. All these damn white Japanese guys. But I think it was an interesting exercise and different approaches to the same problems, was it not? It was an interesting thing, and it was a great show. And it was a fun show, and again, props to my man Edo for being the big non-ethnically Japanese Caucasian guy. I don't even know what you call that, but yes, he was a good guy. Oh, did I misspeak something? Anyway, I'm going to go back to the comments now and say hello to everyone, because that's what Sunday night is for. Singapore is great, by the way. I'm going to put up some photos on Facebook. Appropriately non-family ones, of course, but it was pretty awesome. Although, you know, I didn't really do very much touristy stuff. It was my sister came from the UK, my dad lives in Singapore, my mum came out from Australia because she wanted to see my nieces, her grandchildren. We had a great time. It was a good time. It was very hot. I sweated a lot. 1 week I put on 4 kilos. 4 kilos. It's funny, I was in the pool. I guess I'm not used to seeing myself unclothed that much, because I was looking at myself and I was thinking, geez, I think I've lost weight. And I came back and I'd actually put on 4 kilos in 5 days. But yeah, it's holiday weight. It'll drop straight off. So question first up from Robin Quincy: is Easter celebrated at all in Japan? No, it is not. Although I got a chocolate Easter bunny from Singapore, which I ate tonight because I was hungry. And honestly, let's think about it. I mean, Easter is kind of a messed up holiday. And I mean, no disrespect. I was raised Christian. I was raised, C of E, Episcopalian, all that good stuff. Henry VIII, he's the true hotline to find God. The church that he set up has got to be the one. And I don't know. So a guy was nailed to a cross, and 3 days later he came back to life and went away somewhere again. And obviously, we all know this, right? The Christian church took all of the pre-existing pagan festivals and superimposed those pagan festivals with Christian meaning. And so, of course, they had the midwinter solstice became Christmas, and Easter, the fertility, the spring, in the northern hemisphere, of course, not in the southern hemisphere, but in the northern hemisphere, the spring, symbolized by rabbits that basically have sex a lot, and eggs, of course, which are the symbols of stuff being born all the time that we eat. And somehow chocolate got mixed up with it. I don't know whether Jesus was into chocolate or whether that was part of the crucifixion or anything like that. But somewhere along the lines, they crossed over a guy getting nailed onto 2 planks of wood with chocolate and bonking. And I think it's great. I got my chocolate rabbit bonking symbol, and I enjoyed it. And it's pretty hard to remember the crucifixion when you're having a sugar high eating a rabbit. Although it's a great holiday nonetheless. It's a great time of year for a holiday. And it's all very confusing. I did have hot cross buns on Saturday. I think you're supposed to have them on Sunday. I don't know. They're raisin bread. We did all the kind of Englishy things, but let's face it. I mean, honestly, explaining Christmas is hard enough. I mean, to Japanese, they've figured out that Christmas is just a time to go and have a date. I mean, I don't know, honestly, where I would take them trying to explain. How would you explain Easter to a Japanese person? Like, there's the chocolate, there's the rabbits, there's a guy getting nailed up and hung to death and spontaneously reviving days later, and then there's eggs, and what's that about? And no, I would say better just not to even go there. And Japan has Golden Week in the first week of, they have Hanami in the first week of April, awesome, and then you have Golden Week in the first week of May, or the last week of April and first week of May. So there's no real need for an extra holiday around this time, and it lets us travel cheaper from Japan on April time. So it's all good. So we don't need it. Although, happy Easter to all you Easter people, and I guess I used to be one myself, so I must admit that. So it's one of those things. Being in Japan has this way of making you kind of objective, and about, not objective, but it gives you an outside perspective on things that you never really questioned before you came here. And Easter being one of those things, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't. The story, of course, the Bible story, of course, makes sense, but the rabbits and the chocolate and the eggs just don't. And how they mix the two, I don't know. Does the Pope have chocolate Easter bunnies? I wonder. Any Catholics can answer that. I'd like to know. Moving along. Let the games begin. That was the first comment. That was way too long just for the first comment, so I'm going to speed it up. Ninjaroo, indeed, possibly as a commercial holiday. Yes, not in the Western Christian sense. Actually, not even as a Christian, not even as a commercial holiday, actually. And this is the thing. I mean, this could be the next big boom. They've taken Halloween. When I first came to Japan, nobody celebrated Halloween. Now everybody celebrates Halloween. It's become a huge commercial festival. So who knows? I mean, somebody could commercialize Easter somehow. And I don't know. I mean, please, just whatever you do, just don't make it another Valentine's Day. I mean, the zombies and everything is making kind of Halloween popular. come think of it, I mean, honestly, it's a fertility festival, and they actually have Kanamatsuri, which I know seems like the antithesis of the Christian festival. Well, it involves big wooden poles, but Japan does have fertility festivals in spring, and it's kind of, well, that's what Easter was, at least before, the Christians kind of got it all confusing. So I don't know, I think there's commercial potential to exploit a new festival. Who knows? Anyway, I think Easter, that could be the next big thing in Japan, the next big import. So Ninjuru, that's up to you. Ninjuru 88, that's up to you to import it. Make it go. Cover them with chocolate. And hoist them up. I don't know. Sean Goss, no apologizing. Well, as we all know, I'm not a hardcore apologist. I don't apologize for everything. I'm a soft apologist. I just apologize for the small things. By the way, I think someone. So yeah, honestly, I don't want to read that site, but I read it. My eyes have been burning for hours. I read Debbie Doll's site, where Victor and Vic, V-I-C-K. I think Vicks. I can see multiple of them. You could rub it on your chest. No, I wouldn't want to do that, come think of it. We were the clueless commenters to Ado. Yep, that's about it. Sorry. I felt very microaggressive reading those comments. Darth JF, Easter, AK, it's already a long time since Christmas. Time to eat more chocolate. Indeed, that's exactly, and there's a market for that in Japan. Meiji chocolate latte, they should get into that stuff. Jordan Doe, hey Hiko, as I'm going through this process myself, I'm curious what your thoughts are about shukatsu, or job hunting, against other Japanese people as a foreigner. Well, it's a fight to the death, isn't it? Any thoughts would be much appreciated. Shukatsu nowadays, like real shukatsu, like going from a student to being in the working world for the first time, is a very, very different world now to what it was back in 1998 and 1999 when I was doing it. I mean, we literally didn't even really have the internet back then. I mean, we kind of had it, but it wasn't widely even used in Japan. The first companies I worked at had more word processors than laptops. God, that's depressing. It's like talking to your kids about, back when I was a kid, we didn't have electricity in cars, but that's literally what it's like. So it's hard to compare. I don't know. I mean, one thing that I've noticed in the 15 years, God, I feel old. The 15 years I've been in Japan is, like a lot of things, the culture of shukatsu has become even more kind of concentrated and more kind of, it used to be that, there was this idea you get a new dark suit, but some people might get a light suit, some people might get a blue tie. There was a little bit of individualism, but, there were kind of general rules that everyone followed. But probably with the economy going down the crapper, it's kind of like, and the pressure kind of increasing, it's like, now everybody wears the exact same suit, the exact same tie, the exact same. It used to be there'd be some people with some brown hair. I used to have hair, Now everyone, like, just for the purpose of finding a job, does their hair black. They get the same haircut. And as the other thing was, even the men would get all the suits and would be relatively consistent, but the women would like wear dresses and be bright, and they would kind of stick out in the crowd of, nervous, sweaty men, not even kind of boys to men. Like kind of not fully there. I mean, Japanese university, I know 23, you should be fully a man, but in Japan, the maturity process takes a lot longer, and, university in Japan serves to do the opposite of maturing people. It's like spring break for 4 years, and they come out, basically less mature and even slightly more brain damaged than they were after they left high school most of the time. And so they get out. I don't know, just the fear seems to be driving everybody to job interview technique, and how the whole name of the game for them is not standing out, and not standing out negatively, and it's motivated by fear. And this is where you hear these nightmare stories about people who have been around like 100 companies or 50 companies. Good news for you, Jordan Does, you're not competing against those guys, and you should not compete against those guys. You're going in a totally different category, and the general pattern strategy in Italy, taking Italy back from the Germans. It's funny how and the Italians, it was a bit confusing taking back Italy because they kept changing sides, but the whole strategy was to hit them where they ate. There were no major battles in Italy. not just because the Italians changed sides, but also just because Patton had a strategy of always directing his forces, around the Germans and cutting them off and stuff like that. And that's how you should job hunt, honestly. I mean, that's my philosophy on a lot of things in life. To hit them where they ain't. Figure where are you strong? You're engaging. You're engaging. So people want to hire you, don't want to hire the 2,000 sweaty, nervous guys who are not worried about getting a job. They want you for totally different things, and you should, there are bilingual job fairs, or there were in my day, and I'm sure there still are. There are different types of jobs. Hit up connections, contacts, hit up anything, try to get any kind of work experience that you can get. But you're going into different things. So in a way, I wouldn't think of myself as competing against them. You are competing against them in the sense that you're competing against the returnees, the people who grew up overseas and the people who are coming back. But even them, you shouldn't try to compete against them, because they will kick your ass in both English and Japanese, and it's a waste of time. So you're really looking for someone that's looking specifically for native English speakers, which seems like a narrow range. But there's a lot to that, And the other thing is that what most Japanese speakers who don't speak English very well don't know is that most of those Nikkei and Kikoku Shijo, who you're really competing against, even though they're as good at English as you are, they don't know that. They want someone who looks like you or me, and it's wrong and superficial, but hell, take advantage of it, because one day they're going to figure it out and those jobs are going to be gone. So that's my advice. Hit them where they ain't. And you especially on that first job and getting that first experience, use the gaijin-ness. I mean, that's actually something. You and particularly having a white face, you lucky person, that opens doors, and it's not fair and it's wrong. But hell, don't mess it up by trying to compete against everyone else. Do that after you get the job. You're gonna have plenty of nightmares after you get the job. But yes, get stuck in there and go for it. And all the other advice I've ever given, work on getting a certain level of Japanese, work on getting other qualifications, so that you're not just going in, well, it depends on what you want to do, of course, but I find having a regular professional qualification which you can go back to and still be a professional. My attitude was always making sure that if I ever pulled the parachute and left Japan, I wanted to have some sort of experience which would put me in good stead for carrying on a career outside of Japan. And that's, I guess, was my excuse for not continuing English teaching, although I did English teaching. And again, that was a big help in the beginning, in terms of it allowed me to work for free. It supported my attempts to do other stuff. But there again, and some people want to go on and become educators, and then that's great, but otherwise, just, I guess that's all my advice. Just go for it, man. That's right. And indeed, my cuddly apologism makes the world go around. I'm sorry, it's just politeness. In my country, it's, we let people turn right. They changed the rule for that, but it used to be people turning right, which also we drive on the opposite side of the road to most of the rest of the world, but, had right of way, different to Australia. It's just because we'd always say, sorry. So anyway, I'm way behind. Michael Peckett, didn't miss it, made the live show. Yes, everyone's happy. Lemon and water. I should apologize for being late, Gaijin. I am late, Gaijin. Damn you, Victor. Canada Gene 3, going for the healthy lifestyle. Indeed, lemon water, it's good stuff there. That's going to make you live to be 65. Ninjaru, good. Jordan Do, any news on the permanent residency, so I can take apologism to the next level? They told me in December that it was going to take 10 months, so I guess we're counting down to September. And then I'm looking forward to having that, to updating, getting the permanent visa and not having to worry about that. Because I also actually have to update my visa pretty soon, which I guess I'm going to have to do it one more time. So I'm going to do that, and that'll hopefully be the last time. So it should be pretty cool. Chikoku, yes, I'm late. So basically, I've been spending tonight doing. I'm usually focused on tech support and setup, but I'll take these things out. I've been learning why this doesn't work. Damn it! And for the geeks out there, the reason this doesn't work, even though I have a beast, is that this only works with a very specific type of USB 3 chipset. It is the former NEC, current Renaissance. Or Renesas chipset, which, by the way, is a company that I think I read the other day Apple's looking at buying because they want to make their own chips and they don't want to buy from Samsung anymore, so look out for them. But yeah, they make a specific chipset which is compatible with the USB 3 on this, and my Asus P79X motherboard. Apparently, its USB 3 chipset doesn't play nice with the Shuttle Intensity Pro, so I'm stuck until I get that sorted out. I just ordered literally half an hour ago that on Rakuten. I found one with the right chipset, 2,000 yen, with 4 USB 3 ports. I'm going to have 8 USB 3 ports because you can never have enough USB 3. And I'm going to put that in and pray that I don't break the computer or do anything dumb to it. But I'm going to put the internal PCI Express slot in, and hopefully I'll be cooking with gas this time next week. But we will see. I'm sure there's always going to be more technical problems because that is what my life is about. But it should be fun when it's working. So, yes, audio sync fine. Thank you, James Murphy. The Taste 1962 5 o'clock shadow looks good. It's actually it's 11 o'clock, but yes, I've had this for a few days. I'm going to shave. I'm back at work tomorrow. I'll shave tomorrow. Big hiss. I'm sorry about that. It's still, my computer's right here. I'm going to put it under the desk or try to do something about that. I'm thinking about getting a shotgun mic or something. Something which will just laser beam the sound. Could happen. Well, that's all going to be sorted out anyway when I've got the Lumix going. So anyway, this is always how it works. Rob Japan. David hates my guts, and I don't give a shit, honestly. I actually agreed with him partially on this point, and I actually disagreed with Ado as we come back to the discussion in the beginning on the show. I mean, I wasn't just debating either. I mean, honestly, I actually kind of like his blacklist. But yeah, generally screw that guy, honestly. It was kind of funny to see him and Tikyo Sam fighting, but everyone has their different callings in life, and my calling is to not give a shit about that guy or that stuff so much. Anyway, but I respect some of the stuff he's done. It's all good. Narcissus, good evening to you, sir. Indeed, give me a flake man. Not producing tonight. The Taste 1962. Sometime in my life when I get more organized, I'm going to do one more show in Japanese, and I'd love to get a producer for this, but it's not happening yet. But it'll happen. And you know what? If I get a little bit more breathing space, I like this show because I can talk directly to you. We always miss the comments on 2.5 Oyajis, and that's why I do this. But I would definitely like to, if I could do a third show, or if I could do a third something, I might work on making this a little bit more interactive. I'd certainly like to use Wirecast perhaps for Skype calls and for doing interviews. And we've still got to get bloody what's his face, Jake Adelstein. It is definitely Adelstein. I've been mispronouncing his name all this time. I'm sorry about that, Jake Adelstein. But we can't wait to get you on. And now that my life is back under control, that's all good. Oh, another comments update. So okay, now I'm going to catch up. So bada boom. Where was I just up to? Props to Ado. Mike sounds good. Okay, lemon water. Typical New Zealander, yes. Ado, Ardo. Hey, August Harry, how's it going? Trebius H. What do Japanese think about Koreans? Well, that's an interesting question. There is online nationalism back and forth. There's a lot of baiting back and forth, frankly, between mostly unemployed, stay-at-home kids. Like 4chan, like Nichan, like, half the internet. There's a lot of dumb stuff that's said online. A lot of the stuff which I see, the most popular threads on Nichan, which I regularly post, there's a lot of invective and, rolling of eyes, again with the ship thing. The rejection of offers of help from Japan, the fact that, like, within a few hours, Korean press were immediately saying that, the ship was made in Nagasaki, which it was, apparently. Not that that seems to have had anything to do with the accident, but, it's back and forth, and it's dumb, and it sells. It's aggravation, it's rivalry, and it sells newspaper and news, unfortunately. Doesn't mean that there's a lot of good people on both sides, and there's a lot of Japanese. And while if you just look online, it looks like Japanese don't like Koreans, remember that Japan consumes a huge amount of K-pop, Korean culture. Every Japanese fridge has kimchi. The people here love Korean food, and they know that it's Korean food. I work in Korea every now and then, and like my Korean co-workers were saying, do Japanese really think that kimchi was made in Japan? I'm like, no. Maybe 0.01% of people, mentally deranged people, maybe there are some who think that it's not Korean, but holy hell, no, of course they know that it's Korean, and that's what they love about Korea, and Koreans should be happy that Japanese love all their stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of negative press about Korea makes it up in Japan. One recent example was actually about how a Korean K-pop group was banned from KBS. Their show was actually prohibited from broadcast on KBS, which is the Korean equivalent of NHK, I believe, the government broadcaster, because in a whole song, all in Korean, it had one word, pika, which was just like an expression said in the end of a line of a song or something. Pika means like shiny in Japanese, and they just put shiny in there, one word in Japanese in the whole song, and they banned it because it had a Japanese word. They wouldn't ban it if it was an English word or a German word, but they banned it because it's got Japanese, because it's the language of the former colonial oppressors, and for a long time Japanese culture was actually banned from broadcast and distribution in Korea. But that ban has been lifted. There's no ban in place now. And the fact that, can you imagine if NHK banned it? I mean, they actually have K-pop groups are half the show on the music countdowns now. If they banned Korean dramas get shown on NHK, could you imagine if they banned a song because it had one Korean word in it? It'd be crazy. But unfortunately, the reverse happens. That said, I mean, there's a lot of stupidity both ways. There's been a lot of these hate speech marches and so on, and there's some tension, but the thing is, when it comes down to it, I don't think there's as much real aggro between the countries as is made out by the media. However, the media is guilty of raising it and enhancing it because they make money off it, and they're doing that, and it's raising ill feeling, and I'd very much like to see the media cooperate a little bit at trying to improve the situation, although there's not really ever much money in improving situations. There's a lot of money in worsening situations. But I'd like to think it's not as bad as it's made out, but it looks pretty bad. That's the truth. Good question, Travius H. God Mode Chris, otherwise known as anyway, guten Tag, indeed. For some reason I thought you were Kiwi, but no, you're the German guy, Chris. Oh jeez. But yes, I know your regular handle, and yes, good to see you, and sorry I got you mixed up before. Rob Japan, yo Ishikawa, boom, from the Nishisanku, from Tokyo out to Ishikawa. Great seafood out there, actually. That's Nihonkai, right? That's good stuff out there. I've always meant to get out and travel more around Japan, and that whole area, Hokuriku, Ishikawa, Shimane is one area that's meant to be like awesome. And if you're coming to Japan and traveling, Ishikawa is an awesome place to go. Allegedly, all my friends have been there. They all say that it's great. So, and I'd love to take my family there. Favorite troll in the house, indeed. Taisha Jason. You're pausing your binge watching of season 3 of Clone Wars to watch this. So I'm okay. Muscles. Actually, it's fat. I had too much satay in Singapore. It was pretty good. And the soft shell crab deep. Oh yes. Anyway, 4Ks. I'm gonna lose them, but and there are the comments, 4Ks, jeez. Well, hey, so I had a good time. I can always tell from my weight tracker, like when my vacations were. That's what you're supposed to do on vacation, right? So anyway, Clone Wars. I wish I could clone a skinnier version of myself right now. But good to see you, Taisha Jason. I think now we're coming back to the stuff that I was talking before. So this is kind of becoming like existential. This is like oh, God. I'm getting old. I'm getting tired. But this is God, it's the French word for something that you've seen before, and I'm so tired. Déjà vu. I was going to say je ne sais quoi and rendezvous, but no, that's the third word, the French word that I understand, apart from merde and putain, which is what I'm thinking right now. Salope, okay. Narcissist. I don't think you're a troll narcissist. It's cool. Yeah, and actually, so I think now we're getting back into the discussion about the racist guy. That's right, Donnie Snow. Chocolate eggs are great. And indeed, any holiday where it's acceptable to eat a ton of chocolate and to celebrate fertility. It's all good. It's all good. In Canada Gene 3, I'm the same. I wouldn't know Easter was happening, and I'd have no idea when it was happening if I didn't have relatives telling me and reminding me, or it being impossible to book air tickets because everything's booked out. So, indeed, you wouldn't know about it in Japan. Darth JF, visited Osaka Castle and don't remember having to pay more. I don't know what that's about, but good on you. I've never been to Osaka Castle. I'm sure maybe apart from the increased sales tax, it should be fine. Having to pay more at a Japanese site with tourism and stuff like that, no, it won't happen. Although if it happened with HIS, who knows? But the point is, this is why you have blacklists, and this is why I appreciate Arado Debitos blacklist, because they help you know who's ripping us off. Indeed, Narcissus, the chocolate is all good. Jordan Do is talking about, I kid you not, pretty much spent his first semester in year 11, which is second year of high school in Japan, being taught by an elderly Christian Japanese teacher to explain the holiday circumstances in Japanese, the more you know, and all that. Wow. And by the way, I should also add, there are Christian Japanese, and you do run into them. I'm kind of actually interested to understand how Japanese Christians look at Easter, because, like I said, it's not really publicly celebrated here. I'm not that interested, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, you have to admit, I mean, it's pretty confronting for anyone who's not. Well, I always wonder what it was like. I mean, obviously, it wasn't that much of a barrier because, missionaries were able to convert the entire South America and Pacific and half of Africa. But to walk into a temple with a guy nailed to a cross, up in the front, basically a scene of a person being tortured and murdered, and to take your kids into that, again, when you step out for a minute and objectively, it's weird, right? Okay, it's weird. It's weird for a religion. I mean, some religions, they have like people like in lotus poses and meditating, and some people are like enlightenment. We have a guy being tortured to death, but indeed, all for a good cause, all for a good cause indeed. But yes, anyway, you have to understand it. Easter's a pretty weird thing. I don't know how I would explain it to Japanese people. Honestly, I probably could, but honestly, I'm good on them if they're all into it. But yes. So rebirth, indeed, Michael Peckett is as Buddhist, as Buddha was reborn in the Pure Land and JC was resurrected. Only when Buddha is reborn in your culture, we have sex and eat chocolate. I'm pretty sure Buddha's probably been reborn and is somewhere having sex and eating chocolate for Easter as well. Well, there's about a 1 in 3 chance, given world religions. And why not? Why not? I mean, reincarnation is a fascinating subject as well, by the way, just as a religious subject. I mean, it's kind of funny how it's really a tenet of Christianity that you only have one shot at life, right? That there's only one God, one God preceded Christianity, but the idea of, one God and one shot at life, as I understand on my very vague thing, most of the pagan, most of the Greek and Roman religions, and I did Latin for 6 years, they believed in reincarnation. Even Jewish spirituality, they had a concept of the soul being reborn and so on, and this was with the monotheism, this is with one God. Although I don't know whether Reform and Conservative, whether modern Judaism recognizes rebirth, but there's what do they call it? Kabbalah or something like that, as I understand, recognizes rebirth. Buddhism, of course, and all these other religions that always recognized it. Before the first spirituality that people had this idea of reincarnation. And I don't know, I mean, like I say, well, one, why did everybody think about reincarnation being real at the same time? And, within Christianity, the only guy who's allowed to be reborn is JC, and no one else is allowed. But in most other religions, everyone's allowed to get reborn. Obviously not in the same body, that would be weird. But, this whole thing. So I don't know. And with Japan and with Buddhism, this is the whole thing. And this is why, I guess this is one thing. I suppose with the morality question, I guess when you're a Christian, you think you've only got one chance, and you'll be judged, and this is like life is a test, and then you go to heaven. It means it's a good, objectively, it's a good moral control. It means that you don't get a second shot. Whereas I guess when you're a Buddhist, you can kind of spend the whole life just investing to get a better life the next life around, which or you can be paying, basically cashing debts to pay off later. So I suppose there's not that moral control that you can have. I don't know why that is. Why don't we have reincarnation when everyone else has it? I mean, I'm sorry. I guess I shouldn't be looking at spirituality like a like a shopping catalog. But again, this is just another thing that Japan does to you. You're hit by a lot of religions and a lot of different ideas, and you start to look at everything kind of objectively and think, well, I'm not supposed to think this, but at some point in time, human beings put all this together. They thought all this through and they put it together. They debated, they got together, and and people came to the conclusion about these points, about the fine points, about like reincarnation and so on, and chocolate and bunnies and penis festivals and all that stuff. As much as we all like to think that's all ordained, at the end of the day, someone thinks of it. The fact that they thought about it, they think, well, God made me think of it, but a person thought of it. So, which begs the question, what were they thinking? I'm always wondering that. It makes you wonder that more when you come here and again you're seeing huge penis-shaped logs going down hills. And you're trying to compare that against Easter, which you've got no choice but to do. It's comparative religion in action. It's like sex and chocolate or penises rolling down hills. And that's comparative religion. And all of a sudden you start to think, who's right? It's a fun thing about being in Japan anyway. And indeed, in the Taste 1962, I think it is very, very Easter-esque. I'm now recycling my conversations because I'm catching up on the old comments, but that is what it is. Yeah. So Victor apparently left a comment for Arudo Debito saying, thank you for the microaggression. Thank you indeed. Rage. Well, micro-rage. Triengie. That sounds like a Dutch name, or maybe an Afrikaans name. I always get mistaken for a South African, so I'm going to call it Triengie. Triengie. I don't know. But anyway, rage, indeed. Canada Gene 3. I've got photos of me with hair, but you don't want to see them. I actually look, honestly, I mean, with the stubble and with the receding, I'm going for it. I'm gunning for the lock, stock, and two smoking barrels. Screw you guys. I can say thank God for badly shaven, balding actors, because you help us represent. So yeah, I don't want to have that. Dan N. I look hot with my son. No homo, no, that's all right. It's all good. No, in a very masculine way, I'd like to say that, well, that's right. So it's like Flight of the Conchords, like Brett, you got to go. I love that song. That's a good song. And, New Zealand, there aren't many people, so we have to get along. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for that from Auckland. Sean Goss. There doesn't seem to be much diversity of opinion and messages on the Debito site. Well, I've once gone to his site and tried to magnanimously offer a diversity of opinion discussion, but it's not really a diversity of opinion site, and honestly, most of the forums on the internet aren't. They're just a bunch of, well, honestly, I find most of the forums on the internet, frankly, to be circle tossers. I mean, you don't get actually good discussion, because it tends to go one or two ways, It's all win or lose. It's all I'm right, you're wrong, and then the mob gangs up and drives out the people who are wrong. I mean, there's a few sites where it goes on. I mean, you look at Japan Today, the relentless. I'm pretty sure the Chinese government people post on that site, always trying to put anti-Japanese kind of messages and stuff, like pro-China messages and stuff all over it. You do have these kind of cliques, and I mean, geez, how long ago now? Honestly, 15 years ago. Back around 1999, 2000, I used to post on that site, and I was I was in the apologist clique myself. But even that, most of me and my like-minded friends went off to another site, and we posted like-minded stuff, and it was nice, but it wasn't as interesting. That's what I like about YouTube, and that's what I like to have about guests, and I like to invite people on that I don't agree with, to have interesting discussions. Oh, by the way, so some more interesting news this week. Now that I've caught up the comments, at least so far as I can see. Oh, when there they go, all the comments. You're drunk, Victor, go home. Who said that? That was kind of funny. But Rob Japan. Everyone's making fun. But yes, some interesting news. So Abe, or two interesting bits of news that I noticed. I didn't have time to update my Flipboard. I'm going to do that. I'm a bit behind on it. One, Abe was on some talk show this week. I was crediting Abe for not being quite the right-wing maniac that everyone thought he was, and actually promoting this idea of 200,000 migrants per year in order to stabilize the population, which he actually had his own cabinet hold the first public discussion of. And when that was put to him, does he support that on a TV show? He responded, no, I don't support that. I don't think that Japan needs immigration to sustain its viability, which was interesting. So it's kind of like he's encouraging the debate, but at the same time publicly he's going against himself, which is weird. Although some of our right-wing friends who will go unnamed on Twitter apparently support they're back loving him now, because now he's back to being an anti-immigration nationalist, even though he's promoting immigration. I don't really care so long as the policies are right. But that was weird. The other thing, of course, was there's a lot of debate about, so what's going to happen now with the whaling program, the research program, JAPA, after this international criminal court decision. Was it criminal court, or was it... Anyway, international arbitration with Australia finding that the Antarctic scientific whaling did not meet the International Whaling Commission scientific whaling exemption criteria to be considered whaling, scientific whaling. And I talked about this. I mean, Japan, they could have either gone and been taken this as an opportunity to kind of, okay, let's put this behind us and worry about TPP and worry about defense and the important stuff. Or they can say narrowly, oh, we just have to change our techniques and, stick by the rules better, and we can stick to it. Even though, obviously everyone's going to feel even more righteously empowered against whaling now. And the answer appears to have come out 2 days ago. They have announced that they're going to restart the Antarctic whale hunt, which is just like such a... You talk about a Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhus of Epirus. Epirus being where? I think was it from Yugoslavia or North Africa or something? But anyway, he brought a bunch of elephants or whatever, and he won a bunch of victories, but he won them in a way that his forces were so decimated. He won them at such a cost that he had to go home afterwards, even though he won. So the win was meaningless. And indeed, you talk about a Pyrrhic victory. That's what we've got kind of here. If they go back, even with the whaling criteria, it's just going to be more aggro against Japan, and it's against the national interest, if you ask me. And I say this as a Japanese nationalist. It's not in the national interest to keep doing this, honestly, to protect a few people. I mean, I see, and I've long defended the morality on the Japan side, that just because, it's gone out of fashion for white people to exterminate whales, which we did. We feel bad about it. Now that we want to stop it, we want to make everyone else stop it, even though, I mean, there's no inherent morality against whaling, and I've always stood up for that. But at the same time, geez, call it a day. I mean, at the end of the day, there are more important things. But it looks like they're going to take the narrow view, and I don't think it's a good idea. But they're going to do it, and honestly speaking, I don't think it's a moral thing. I think it's just stupid, if you ask me. But I think they're entitled to do it if they want to do it. So they're going to do it. We'll see how that goes anyway, but I really hope, for the sake of Japan's national interest and for the really important stuff, the economy and for diplomacy and all that other stuff, that Japan could kind of come a little bit more into the fold on that. On other stuff, I saw, actually, it's quite big news on the BBC and in Japan, that they're putting a big radar station on Yonaguni Island. I've got a friend who's actually an expert on the he's an American. He's an expert on the Yonaguni language, which is it's kind of one of the very few hieroglyphic-based written languages in the world. They don't use Chinese characters, and but they do have written language, and they've got a really, I mean, it's a tiny island, basically between the main islands of Okinawa and Taiwan, that just managed to survive and develop in its own isolation, separate to the kingdom of Okinawa for hundreds of years, and they've got a fascinating separate culture to Okinawa, even though they're integrated into Okinawa. And they've never had it seems like they've never had a major military base down there. But of course now they're becoming very relevant, because they're the closest islands to the Senkaku Islands, which are disputed with mainland China, and Taiwan for that matter. Although Taiwan's been nice about it because Japan's given them fishing rights. But yeah, they've just announced they're going to put a big radar base there, which will basically, it's screw you China with the air identification zone around those islands and trying to assert control, and it will allow them to monitor Chinese activity better around those islands. NHK mentioned in passing there were 70 people protesting against the construction of the base, which is probably like half the island. It's a very small island, small population. But the government's going to push ahead with that, and I guess it's being promoted by the BBC and even within the Japanese news as kind of a screw you China move, kind of a provocation. But there again, I mean, Japan can put radar bases wherever it wants on its own territory, and no one's ever disputed Yonaguni, at least that I'm aware of. I mean, except to the extent that some people have pointed out all of Okinawa could be in question. Or Yonaguni is not disputed territory, so that'll be interesting to see where that goes. But yeah, so we're coming up on the hour. I've got it at 11:57. I know I started 5 minutes late, but Liverpool won tonight, and that's all good. And now I'm seeing a rush of questions. So, okay, I'm gonna rush of comments, which is a good thing. So I'm gonna come through. I'm gonna finish these up. I got 2 dislikes. I wonder if that's because of I'm all cool. Henry VIII, church guy, baptized, all that good stuff. So I'm cool with Christianity, although I must admit I find it a little bit weirder now than probably when I grew up and was taught not to question it. Although that's what I like about CFE, is that it's kind of cool to question. It's okay. Rob, I'm sorry, did I say Shimane in the same breath as... Well, Shimane is cool as well, and it's beside Ishi. I know you guys over at like Korea and Japan, but get along, can't we all just get along? August Harry, Japanese government mentions Takeshima. Oh, not going there. Kevin Crocker in Japan. You'll have to go. Indeed, go to Ishikawa. Ishikawa is awesome. Rob Japan, don't be interested in Japanese Christians. They are a weird bunch. Well, there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses and a lot of Unification Church, which isn't really a... Well, yes, I agree. Better not to go there. Let's not go there. I've met a few, and yeah, they have been a little bit weird. Well, the thing is, you have to also realize Japan is still a very much fresh territory for the Mormons and for the evangelicals, and as a result, it's not really mainstream and boring like it is in New Zealand and Scotland and Wales. So yeah, it means that people tend to be a little bit of a different background. Elise Nihon, good to see you. Hey, Olden Youth, good to see you, man. Apparently there is Darth JF says that there is an Ishikawa in AKB. I did not know that. Donny Snow, that's right. Actually, I never thought of Donny Snow. Good point. The hot cross bun symbolizes the torture murder device. Good point. Shimane, yes. Taisha Jason, I see we're still fighting about that. I'm sorry. Baby Metal. I've seen little bits of Baby Metal, and I'm getting old, I guess. I don't get it, but that's okay. Christopher Lee, first time watching it live in Tokyo. Feels like another life. Awesome. Good to have you here in Tokyo. Whether you be in the To or in the Nijisanku, but Tokyo is awesome, and that's why I call this Tokyo tonight and not Japan tonight, because Tokyo rocks, and it's kind of different to the rest of Japan, frankly. Tokyo half gurashi. Why does NHK force people to pay a fee in Japan? I don't even watch NHK. Doesn't matter if you don't watch it, if you can receive it, and it's the same as a broadcast fee in Britain. It's the same as in New Zealand. I think it's actually modelled on those other countries. I gotta admit, I always watch the news, and the news is pretty good, actually, NHK news. And since having kids, I always enjoy NHK documentaries. They're pretty good. And since having kids, I'm a major consumer of NHK, so I don't mind paying it. And you can hide in your apartment, or I actually have set up the monthly furikomi. I just pay them. I mean, why? I don't know. I think public broadcasting has its place. I'm happy to pay. And if it's voluntary, then nobody will pay, and there'll be no public broadcasting. So perhaps the government should fully fund it. But then you'd start getting things like, well, it's already kind of happening, but you could actually have government policy dictating what the TV says. And I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit of independence on the current model. It's the same, which is, again, the whole idea of the BBC. And I think it's a good model, even though the payment part of it sucks. That's what I think. Donnie Slow hopes to get reincarnated as a sloth, and if that's what you want, I hope that's what you get too. Travis H, you think it's about the older generations and environment in Korea? Actually, that's what's really interesting. In my experience, older people tend to be less aggro towards Japan than young people. I think it's actually a product of the dictatorship in Korea and the education system in Korea, actually, and the very rabid anti-Japanese based Korean nationalism. And no question, there's always been some prejudice in Japan. Yes, I'll plug our show, Victor. There's always been some, there's associations in Japan with Koreans as being, traveling people and, gangsters and running pachinko. And there's a lot of negative connotations. At the same time, the richest person in Japan, one of the richest people in the world, Masayoshi Son, Korean guy. I mean, Koreans, the top of the entertainment industry, top of many of the business, so Koreans are pretty high, at the same time as there's a lot of people who look down on them, they're at the very top of Japanese society at the same time. And I know Koreans who have been, through elite schools and, are doing very, very well. So I don't know, there's, it's, I find it a lot like Jews, I mean, Jewish people, you can't even tell that they're there unless someone sort of tells you half the time. And and they've gone through a transformation of being kind of from the poor migrants to the actually embedded in the elites now of the society here as full Japanese citizens, and that's a great thing, if you ask me. And this is why I really wish that the two countries could get along. I really do. Anyway, wrapping it up. The Taste 1962, because reunification is retarded. Well, I guess that's what a bunch of guys decided at some point, and they ran with it. But that's all good. Rob Japan, all religions are created by man. Yes, but who created man? That's right. Gotcha. Stardust. And who created Stardust? So that's what my dad always used to say. Whenever I question, I'd say something, there's a Big Bang. And my dad would be like, yeah, but who made the Big Bang? Oh, he got me again. At some point, I don't know, Carl Sagan made the Big Bang, if you ask me. But anyway. So we're going back through the reincarnation comments, and I'm sure it's pretty well over now. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to say, don't forget to plug our show on my channel Wednesday, 10:30 Japan time. 2.5 Oyajis, of course, on every week, and this is what gave birth to this whole thing, the live phenomenon on my channel, which means that comments will be beside the video, over there, where they should be, the natural place that comments should be, not below. It's always kind of like, when I look down, you don't want to see what I see when I look down. And, I don't want to see comments down there. Comments should be beside the video, and they should be live, which is where they will be on Wednesday, with Victor and I doing 2.5 Oyajis. No planned guest yet, but we are going to start hitting up Jake Adelstein and others. And we're going to get awesome guests. By the way, the Hanami was awesome. We're going to buzz about that a little bit some more. And it's been awesome. And we are going to go back to rocking that every week. And you look at it, we've been doing it for 3.5 years now. Consistency. We're going to be keeping you up to date with what's going on in Japan, the awesome stuff on YouTube, the best channels to watch, the best people. We're going to be generally disagreeing with each other. Victor's going to be mostly wrong, and I'm going to be mostly right, the way that it should be, and I'm going to have awkward endings and technical problems. And it's all good, and that happens every Wednesday night at 10:30 p.m. Japan time. You should know that by now. You should know that. For 3 years, people still ask me, what time was your show on? Kat McDowell even put our time into a song and sang it for us, and I used it as the intro, and people still kept asking. But I've noticed lately it's starting to decline. I think people are starting to get it, or they're just giving up. I don't know. They could be giving up. They could be wearing you down. That could be it. But I am done. That is 1 hour, and this was a pretty good show. I think this is a pretty good chat. I didn't have a lot of news to talk about, but that probably made the conversation a little bit easier. Very good to see you guys always, and come back and see us all next week, where I'll have more news and more topics, and it will be good to see you again. So thank you for joining me. It's good to be back from Singapore. I will be shaved. Maybe not. This is kind of the Don Johnson kind of thing. Oh, by the way, I saw some awesome movies on the airplane. I should just go through the movies that I saw. I saw Life, something Mitty, the Ben Stiller movie. Thumbs up. Grudge Match with Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro. Not really, waste of time. American Hustle, awesome movie. The Wolf of Wall Street, yeah, it was alright. It was a bit long. It was a bit of DiCaprio trying a bit too hard for another Oscar, being a crazy guy again, but it was good. And then I saw Wall Street 2, Money Never Sleeps. It's kind of a trend of gradually more successful con people and so on. Oh, it was alright. But American Hustle, that was a good movie, and that's the one I recommend the most. And I'm going to say goodnight. So goodnight. Peace. Is this going to work? Am I going to be able to turn it off with no technical problems whatsoever? Let's have a look. Boom.